Hello everyone, we are the members of Group 6 and we have done this report based on a serious data analysis and we have come to these conclusions. And welcome to our presentation, a data visualization analysis on global demographic and economic insights. Our project dives into a complex interplay between demographic and economic indicators across countries, aiming to uncover meaningful patterns and insights that help us understand global disparities and development trajectories. Let's start by examining the land versus population graph. This analysis, we are visualizing how countries vary population density relative to their land masses. Here, the x-axis represents the land area in square kilometers, while the y-axis shows the total population. What's immediately noticeable is the concentration of data points in the lower left quadrant. These represent countries with both smaller land areas and lower populations. This cluster typically includes nations where high population density poses distinct challenges in terms of urban planning, resource allocation, and environmental impact. But then we see several distinct outliers. For example, towards the far right, there's a data point representing a country with a very large land area, but a relatively low population. This could represent a country like Russia or Canada, where expensive territories are sparsely populated. Such countries face different socio-economic challenges, such as connecting remote areas through infrastructure, maintaining healthcare access, and fostering economic growth in widely dispersed communities. Conversely, if we shift our focus upwards, we observe countries with high populations despite relatively smaller land areas. These countries, often located in Asia, face the complex task of balancing rapid population growth with limited land resources, which can lead to issues like high urban density, pressure on housing, and strain on public services. These conditions underscore the diversity of geographical and demographic pressures that can impact a country's economic stability and overall quality of life. In sum, this visualization highlights how land and population distributions can vary dramatically across the globe, each configuration creating unique developmental challenges and priorities. This analysis serves as a foundation for understanding how population density might intersect with other factors such as GDP, healthcare access, and life expectancy. Which brings us to our next visual. I will now hand it over to Vishwajit for further briefing.
Hello, myself Vishwajit. Here I am explaining about the GDP versus population graph. This graph represents the relationship between gross domestic product and population size of a country over a given time period. The GDP is plotted on the vertical axis, showing the economic output or the values of goods and services produced. The population size is shown on the horizontal axis, which indicates the number of people living in the country of region. As we look at the graph, we can observe several key trends. If the graph shows a positive relationship, as population increases, GDP increases, there seems to be a positive correlation between population size and GDP. This suggests that countries with larger populations tend to have higher GDPs, likely due to the larger labor force and consumer market they provide. If the graph shows no clear trend or negative correlation, means it is important to note that while a large population can support higher economic output, other factors such as technological development, infrastructure, and political stability. Uh, in summary, we can say that while a larger population can contribute to a higher total GDP, it doesn't guarantee economic prosperity for every individual. GDP per capita and other factors are crucial in fully understanding a country economic health and its people living standard. Now Vijay Pal Singh will continue.
Hello, myself Vijay Singh Rathod, and I will explain about birth rate versus maternal mortality. So let's come to the first birth. Birth rate equal to number of live birth per 1,000 people in a population. High birth rate seen in developing country, as we see in diagram also, like seen in developing country driven by factor like limited access to family planning, culture norms, and lower education for women. Low seen in developing country influence for better access to contraception, increased education for women, and economical stability. Now let's come to maternal mortality. It's equal to the number of women who die from pregnancy-related causes per 1 lakh live births. high maternal mortality common in low-income countries. Example, as we seen in diagram like Sub-Sahara Africa, South Asia, caused by poor healthcare infrastructure, lack of skilled birth attendants, and poor nutrition. Now let's come to the birth rate versus maternal mortality. So in this country with lower birth rate usually have a lower maternal mortality. Better healthcare system, skilled medical professional, and family planning contribute to lower maternal deaths. So the objective and this analysis is to explore how birth rates correlate with maternal mortality rates in various countries and how these factors might reflect healthcare quality, socioeconomic condition, and access to maternal health services. And also the importance of analysis is to understanding the relationship between these two matrices is critical. For example, a high birth rates coupled with maternal mortality could indicate a strain or healthcare system or insufficient maternal care, while a low birth rate and low maternal mortality rate might point to better healthcare system or lower fertility rates. As is seen in the chart, the country like Niger, Chad, and Somalia, Mali has a higher and Sri, Fiji, and some are has a lower ratio. Now, after this portion, will continue.
Hello, so I'll be discussing this graph which illustrates the association between GDP per capita and life expectancy across different countries. GDP per capita is nothing but the measure of economic output per person, serves as an indicator of average income levels in the country. A life expectancy, on the other hand, reflects the average lifespan within a population, highlighting overall health and living conditions. So, in the life expectancy versus GDP graph, we can see here that we can find a positive relationship as there is an exponential growth across the ages. So this trend suggests that economic prosperity enables better access to healthcare, improved living standards, and greater resources for health-related infrastructures. So the other correlations which are found is in countries with lower GDP per capita, small increases in economic output often correlate with significant gains in life expectancy, as essential needs like sanitation, nutrition, and basic healthcare can be met. However, at higher GDP per capita levels, life expectancy gains become more gradual. Once basic needs are satisfied, additional GDP growth has smaller impact on life expectancy. We also have some outliers, like in countries which have high GDP per capita. They also show lower life expectancy, which can be attributed to factors like lifestyle-related health issues, environmental factors, or income inequality. And also, the lower GDP per capita countries also have higher life expectancy because of the cultural factors or preventive healthcare measures of that particular country. So, like in conclusion, this graph underscores the importance of economic development in enhancing life expectancy, especially in lower income countries. However, it also highlights that beyond a certain level, additional economic growth alone is not sufficient to achieve substantial gains in life expectancy. Thank you. The next will be by Yash.
So I'll be talking about this graph showing CO2 emissions done by each country in million tons. So as you can see around the graph, there are only some very big producers of CO2 emissions. I mean, it seems to be so. For example, this is the CO2 emissions done by China. As you can see, it's much higher than any other country. Some other outlets being India, Indonesia, Iran, or Japan here. And all of these countries are Asian and developing. So from this graph, it gives us the illusion that most of the CO2 emissions, that is pollution done, is done by the developing countries, and most of the pollution is also done by Asian countries. But this is a false illusion. For to show that I created a graph of per capita CO2 emission. So as you can observe in this graph, we can see if we compare the per capita pollutions, most of the pollution is done by the more developed countries like Canada, USA, Saudi Arabia, or Russia. I mean, there are these two outliers, but they are also because of the same reason. And another shocking fact is that even though Europe is more has more CO2 emissions, I mean, it has less CO2 emissions, even though they are also developed countries. The reason because this is that European countries have started to develop renewable resources in which the modern countries are a little bit lacking. So this series is the nature of about per capita CO2 and urbanization. And as you can see in this graph, as urbanization seems to increase, so does the per capita CO2 produced by that country. So it shows us the relation that urbanization might be not good for each thing, but there is only the outlier of Trinidad and Tobago or Turkmenistan. These countries have very high amount of per capita CO2 emissions, even though they are not very urbanized. Thank you.